This machine we're using now is something we modified from a, well, we got it from Canada. It's a Canadian field cultivator, they call it. And we use it basically just for weed control. And we had to modify it from a larger size. Actually, these were wings that came from a 14-foot model or something. And someone had sold the 8-foot center portions, and this was the outside wings. We welded together and made it so it would fit between the rows of plastic. When we lay down our plastic, we always try to put the plastic just a tractor width or a little more apart. And we use a lot of space between our plastic, and that's mainly just for weed control, because we found that when you had to do it by hand with a hoe or a hand-push cultivator, it just never got done. But if we can jump on a tractor, then we can easily do, 3 or 4 or 5 acres in an afternoon, or do, 10 lengths of plastic in a half an hour. And the advantage of this field cultivator over a tiller, we used to take the tiller and crank it up so it was really shallow and just cuff the top 2 inches of soil. It worked very well, but it was slow. The beauty of this piece of equipment here is that you can adjust the depth. And so we can use it as a primary tillage tool to loosen the soil and go 6 to 8 inches deep, if that's what we want to do. But when we're controlling weeds, we just want to skim the surface of the soil, the top 2 inches. And so with this adjusting wheel here, we can raise these tines up or down so they just barely skim, because we don't want to bring up more soil. We want to just sterilize the soil, the top 2 inches of soil, and kill those weeds that are in that zone. So this is just simply a spring-loaded, a spring shank cultivator tooth that vibrates and creates a little more tillage action. But the thing I like the best is this reel in the back, in that once you've broken the soil up, there's some clods of dirt like this that a weed is actually growing in. And by the time it gets through this thing rolling over, it breaks it apart and exposes the root, and it literally hangs the weed up to dry. As you can see, some of them hanging on the basket there. And that's the important thing. You get the soil off the bare root of the small weed, flip it over, and lay it on top of the ground where the sun can bake it and kill it. We've been trying to figure out a system for the edge of the plastic for as many years we've used plastic. And this is coming closer to what we want all the time. We used to use shovels, sweeps they call them, off a cultivator, but that would either go above the plastic and just skim along and not kill the weeds, or it'd go below the plastic and loosen it up and not kill the weeds either. We find this, we can run right over the top of the plastic, and in fact sometimes I think it even stretches the plastic tighter and makes the plastic better, because it'll roll the top and push little holes in it and punch it down further in the soil. So this is zoned, if you understand, on the edge of the plastic, where the plastic curls down under, where you secure it to the soil. That is always a weed problem, because you can't take even with a hoe, you end up tearing the plastic. Whereas this thing seems to go over and flick the weeds off, if they're small. As I said, again, these weeds are too big. We had a problem here, we missed them the first time through. But under ideal conditions, if you time it right, it works quite well. This piece of equipment here actually came off a Lilliston cultivator. It's some of your larger Lilliston setups have what they call an inner wheel. It's a smaller spider wheel that runs very close to the plant. And we just took it and modified it with the same hookup to this cultivator setup here. We got an adjustment here so we can swivel it to get an angle. The more angle you get, the more action you get. And we think it works pretty well. I got some weeds here in front of me, and the time to get weeds is actually before you see them, or just when they're an inch or less tall, because the root system isn't very strong. And by just flicking the dirt, you can roll the soil over and get the weed exposed to the surface, where it'll die in a half an hour or less in the sun. You take a larger weed here, which is one we missed from the last cultivation. This weed has so much reserve, moisture and nutrients in the stalk itself, that it'll sacrifice that, and that weed there will not die in an hour in the sun. It may not die all day in the sun. So you've missed it. Once they get this big, you're in real trouble. It means handwork. So timing is everything, and we always have problems. If it rains 4 days in a row and it's warm and you can't cultivate anyway, then the weeds get away from you. And I guess that leads me to another point, is that we have lots of cultivators and lots of tractors, and I think you almost never have too many, because I like to have each cultivation piece of equipment on each tractor so I don't have to stop and adjust and mount up, because sometimes you don't have the time to do that. It'd be nice just to be able to jump from one tractor onto another one. And it's kind of extravagant, but you can usually find a used tractor that if you don't use it too heavily, will last for years. And just mount a certain piece of equipment on that tractor and get it set up perfectly and leave it.
vegetable farmers and their weed control machines. In this video, we visit 9 vegetable farms in 3 New England states to talk with growers about their weed control equipment and how it's used. They will describe a variety of cultivation tools and approaches to weed control. Hopefully, their knowledge and experience will help you get a better understanding of cultivation equipment and techniques. Matching cultivation tools to the soils, crops, weeds, and other particulars of a farm can be a complex task. Growers that are trying to reduce or eliminate their reliance on herbicides need information that will help them make good decisions about cultivation and weed control. Extension, research, and the private sector working together can generate that kind of information. Funded in part by the USDA Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, promoting environmentally sound and economically viable agriculture. This video was produced by Vern Grubinger, University of Vermont Extension System, and Mary Jane Else, University of Massachusetts Agroecology Program.